And we could not be more fortunate that leading off our discussion tonight is Laurence Tribe, University Professor of Constitutional Law, Emeritus at Harvard Law School. He has won 35 cases in the United States Supreme Court. Professor Tribe, I hope you heard your eager students, Rachel and I, discussing the judge's opinion tonight at the beginning of the hour. Please weave together for us your analysis of the judge's opinion and what that might mean for Merrick Garland's decision about the criminal prosecution referral for contempt of Congress by Steve Bannon.
Glad to, Laurence, and I did hear your conversation with Rachel as I was finishing reading the remarkably powerful opinion by Judge Chutkan. It's a 39-page opinion dissecting closely all of the arguments that are made by Donald Trump's lawyers, claiming that even though he is no longer the president, he has executive privilege to prevent the turning over of hundreds of government documents, presidential logs, information about what he knew and when he knew it, a familiar concept, that somehow he could prevent turning that over. She rejected that argument. We only have one president at a time, and that president is not Donald Trump. The current president has to weigh the claims of executive privilege, which are designed to encourage confidential advice for the president, against the needs of the country, and in particular, in this case, the legitimate needs of Congress, to find out why the coup was attempted and why the insurrection occurred and what the role of the president and the president's high lieutenants was in doing all of that. Now, the only thing that I can imagine my former student, Merrick Garland, thinking as to why he hasn't acted already, and I really think he should have. He's smart enough. The case is clear. The statute says that when Congress refers someone who is in contempt of Congress, refers them to prosecution, the U.S. attorney should convene a grand jury. The only possible argument is that there are a couple of opinions of the Office of Legal Counsel, one in 1980 and one in 2008, that suggests that when executive privilege protects the assertion by someone that he or she cannot comply with a congressional subpoena, then the department should not prosecute. Well, perhaps Merrick Garland, being a good lawyer and wanting to dot his I's and cross his T's, was waiting to hear a court say that the executive privilege doesn't apply to the former president when the current president doesn't assert that privilege and when there is a legitimate need for the information. If that's what he was waiting for, he got it tonight. And if he does not move immediately, it will be inexcusable. He will, in all effects and purposes, he will be obstructing Congress. He will be preventing the effectuation of a legitimate and crucial congressional investigation, because all of these guys who are getting subpoenas have no particular incentive to comply. If Steve Bannon can get away with stonewalling, not even showing up, being in contempt of Congress, saying that he's waiting for some judicial signal, well, he certainly got it tonight. If nothing happens to the guy, so why should Clark, who's also been subpoenaed, why should Eastman, why should any of these people comply if there are no consequences? If it's just like a sort of a Dear John letter, show up, please. That's not what these subpoenas are. And when Congress returns a contempt citation and asks the Justice Department to perform its constitutional function, there is just no excuse for any further foot dragging. I know a number of former U.S. attorneys have tried to, make Merrick Garland look good. He's a good guy. He's got a lot of integrity. And they've tried to say, well, maybe he's trying to make sure all the ducks are in a row. There are no more ducks. This duck quacks like a duck. It's a duck, and there are no more ducks left. Merrick Garland should go ahead and not get in the way of this absolutely vital congressional investigation.
Donald Trump, his lawyers have already announced they're going to appeal this decision by the district court judge. Take us through that appeals process.
Well, they're going to first ask the judge herself to issue an administrative stay, claiming that she really shouldn't be so sure of herself. But she's already explained why there is no basis for a stay. A stay can be granted if there is a probable outcome on appeal that is a reversal of what the judge did. That's not going to happen. A stay can be granted if there is irreversible harm that is threatened to the person who has to turn over documents or show up to testify. Well, here she's quite clearly shown that there is no harm. That is, it's not his private documents. These are all government documents. And during the oral argument in her court, when she pressed Trump's lawyers to say, well, what's the harm to your client as a citizen? And Trump's lawyers said, well, it's executive privilege. And she said, no, I've already explained that that's up to the current president. You've lost that one, she basically predicted. And of course, that's what she did. So what's the harm to your client as a private citizen? These aren't his tax records. These aren't private records. There is no harm. So there is absolutely no basis for a stay. What will happen is he will go to the Court of Appeals. He'll ask the Court of Appeals to prevent the turnover of the documents at the end of this week. It's all going to move very fast. I don't think the Court of Appeals has any basis to grant him a stay. And then the documents will be turned over and the case will be moot, although he will still try to drag it into the Supreme Court. I can't imagine this Supreme Court finding any basis to rule for him. I can't imagine even the three justices that he put on the court doing that. So I think, it really, the fat lady has sung. The music is over, and he's got to turn over the documents. And I think Bannon has got to be prosecuted. That will require an indictment by this Attorney General. The grand jury, of course, is the body that has to return the indictment. And I think we're about to watch a very rapid show.
Professor Laurence Tribe, so lucky to have you with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. And coming up, Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer got some very good news today in their fight to keep